Well, I have a treat for you today. A few years ago, we reviewed the very first Walther PDP. Since then, we've essentially reviewed every single Walther PDP model up until this point. I do understand they came out with the all-new X comp. However, I already have a PDP with the Parker Mountain machine comp, so it's the same thing. But what do you want in a PDP if you don't want a comped pistol? Well, then I would say you probably want a steel frame. Maybe something like this 4.5-inch Walther PDP steel frame. The steel frame model is exactly like you would think it is. It's just a steel frame with a standard PDP upper. However, there are some additional differences in the slide serrations up here on the front, and it does say steel frame on there. And we'll go over some of the points about this pistol that truly make this thing stand out from everything else that's out there on the market. Before we get into all of that stuff, to help out the channel, there's a bunch of things that you can do that are fairly easy. One, I need you to make sure you like the video, at least if you like it at least. Then share it with your friends if you think that they should see it. And then more importantly, help us push that message to everybody else. Help promote the channel for us. When you're watching the video, if you see me wearing something like this Numa sweatshirt here, you can actually go down the link in the description. That link in the description will actually have a link to everything that you see in the video, whether it's clothes, whatever it might be, it's gonna show that so you can get on there and do some research and see what you may be looking for. And generally speaking, there's gonna also be some things in there that help out the channel as well. So let's talk some more about this Walther PDP steel frame. We got this pistol now, I'd say about 2 months ago. It's just unfortunately we've been so dang busy, we haven't had a chance to really sit down and review it. And it certainly needs its own, let's say, sole review. The PDP series, as you know, they come with a very good trigger in general. Their standard PDT trigger is good. What I'll tell you is that if you get used to shooting their performance trigger versus the standard curved polymer trigger that they put in them, you're going to think that it sucks compared to that. Not that it sucks compared to everything else on the market, because by all intents and purposes, the standard PDP trigger is better than anything you get on Shadow System, Sig, Glock, whatever it might be, you know, Smith & Wesson. It's better than all of those. It's, you know, if you're into Caniks, it's like those, but it is really, really darn good. So you get used to shooting that performance trigger like on their Pro series of pistols or their other match series. And we did do the polymer match gun, which is a 5-inch that has their performance trigger. This pistol does not come with that. At its price point, I think it's kind of disappointing that it doesn't come with it. However, you do get a lot of stuff with this pistol that is great. So what I did is I actually went and changed out the trigger and put an Overwatch precision trigger in here. So the trigger on my gun is nice and flat, you know, super crisp and clean break, just like you would expect from the polymer, but this has a flat metal shoe that's a touch lighter. Outside of that stuff, obviously the steel frame. So what would I say is the best part about this pistol? Well, it feels like an anvil in your hands in a good way. Not so much that it's so heavy that it's uncomfortable to shoot, but so much so that it's heavy that when I shoot this compared to something like my OA Defense 2311, or you shoot a Staccato P, this pistol, call me a liar if you want to, shoots flatter than those two. And it's because it's such a heavy pistol. So it feels really good in your hand, and it just kind of molds to it. Now, like, I've taken a couple people shooting with this gun compared to those other two pistols, like my dad in particular, and he was like, I like shooting that Walther more. He goes, I like shooting it more than those. I go, what would you say if I told you that it's half the price almost? And he goes, oh, I like it. It just shoots better. It's heavier and it just feels better in the hand. And on top of that, the trigger is really good, especially for a striker gun. So, you know, grip wise on here, there are interchangeable grips. I think the factory ones that come on here feel really nice in the hand. And for me, they're good. What I'll tell you though is comparing the overall grip circumference on the PDP series in this pistol is a little bit fatter or chunkier than what you would normally find on maybe like a Sig SXG Legion. It's definitely a little thicker, but overall it does feel good and the textures are good. I don't think that there's something that by any stretch of the imagination you should ever really need to actually change them out. Up on the front, of course, you have a pick rail where you can mount a light. Good slide serrations are across the top there on both sides. And then back here on the rear, I have this with an acro plate and then the Lead and Steel Arms PB3. This little optic has turned out to be one of the finer optics I've used, especially in a closed emitter optic. It looks good, functions well, it's held up very well now for about 5 months. We've been using them. Battery life is great. Clarity is great. I really can't say enough good things about these, and I think it's something you should definitely check out if you're looking for an enclosed emitter using the acro footprint. All of this stuff, you know, obviously it feels good in the hand. The trigger is good, even if you don't change it out. So again, you don't need to. The pistol does come with 3 magazines. You'll see with the magazines, I do actually have Floyd's custom base pads. Now, when you add a Magwell, like I added to this pistol, you have to add the base pads from Floyd. So this is a Floyd's custom Magwell. and then also their base pads. They are 18-round mags, so this brings it up to like 21, and it does feel good. It obviously works really well, and they fit very well. And overall, I really wanted a Magwell. Now, why did I want a Magwell? So with this pistol, if I shoot any like, you know, Tuesday night steel competitions or something like that, I want a Magwell, and I also want more capacity with the magazine. So needing all of that stuff and wanting that stuff is why I added it. Again, it's not something you have to do. I definitely want a Magwell. I love the Magwell on the Match Series pistols. I love it on the Pro Series that I have. And it's just something I get used to that I'm like, I just basically want a Magwell on every pistol I own now. So I added it. So as you look at this pistol, you're gonna ask, well, how much does it cost? Man, that sucker's expensive. For a, let's say, a striker fire gun, it's gonna be one of the most expensive ones you can buy. They come in about $1,700, so they're a lot. And of course I added some stuff. So as you see this pistol sitting here, it's over $2,000 as you see this thing. So it's a lot of money for this pistol. Not for everybody. I will tell you though, having shot this already, and before we go down on the range here in a second, it's one of the nicest, flattest, softest shooting striker guns you can possibly get. And this 4.5-inch model would be a great option for somebody wanting to pull double duty. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you want to go to work and carry this gun as your duty pistol as a police officer, and then on the weekend shoot it as a match pistol, you can easily do that. I wouldn't normally say you can easily do that with like a 17 or, you know, a standard PDP. Of course you can, but this pistol, you can legitimately compete with those people shooting their tricked out striker fire guns, or maybe even a race gun in some divisions for some folks if they want to do that. But this thing can easily do both of those things. It works great as a target pistol per se, or a competition pistol, but easily also something you can wear in a holster all day long with the 4.5-inch overall length on here. So it can easily do both those things. And on top of all that stuff, we've obviously shot a ton of PDPs on this channel. I can't tell you a single time a PDP has malfunctioned on us on this channel. One time with a comp that I added to the pistol. So I basically made it do that. Factory configurations and all of the Walther pistols we own, every single one, I'm talking even a little PD380, not one single malfunction. And they've all been 100% reliable. I probably can't recommend Walther PDPs enough. I think they're one of the best out-of-the-box striker fire guns you can possibly buy. But let's go out on the range, we'll shoot this thing, give you guys a good overall feel of how it looks on camera, especially for recoil and things like that. We'll talk about the trigger a little bit more, but again, this is aftermarket, and then you guys can give us some final thoughts at the end. Let's load up our PDP steel frame now, out on the range, and let's get this thing zeroed. Shoots so well. It's just such a soft shooting pistol. Trigger obviously is fantastic, but like with this pistol in general, just the recoil impulse of how it feels, you can probably see it on camera, it just does not move. And it's very flat shooting and just really returns or stays where you want it to be. It looks like I gotta bring my dot up and about 4 or 5 inches and then move it to the right some. Looks like our zero is good. We're at 15 yards for red dots for myself. I usually always zero them at 15 yards and I get them in there and then I'll refine them a little bit and make sure, but overall this thing's looking good. It's really hard to get over, you know, how well this pistol shoots. It's also a little cold this morning, but really the pistol and how it feels in your hand is really good. You know, back here on this beaver tail, no hot spots or anything like that I'm noticing, but it feels like with a good high grip and all that stuff, there is not a bunch of muzzle flip. Like if you're somebody that was concerned with like the standard PDP and it being like snappy, I never felt that way personally, just because I think the grips are really nice. But the way that this thing feels is even better than that. It just feels really well. There's none of that, you don't get any vibration or nothing like that. So let's load up some more rounds. We'll talk about the trigger a bit. And then we'll do some target transitions and do some shooting on the move and some different drills and things like that. And then give you guys some final thoughts. I mean, there's really nothing else to say if I'm being completely honest. The Walther PDP Steel Frame, one of the finest options on the market for a striker fire pistol. I've got 2 mags of 3 in them. I got target steel out here at a little over 20 yards from where we're at now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shoot 3 on the right target and then 3 on the left. There'll be a reload in between. I'm gonna shoot this fairly slow as well, just from the high ready. So I missed that second shot on the right steel, 6.63, so slow, but we'll get warmed up here and speed up a touch. Let's try it one more time. So you'll see that what's important to make note of is that things don't always go as planned. Unfortunately, I completely forgot to reload. So I was like, oh, my gun's empty, I better reload it. But overall, I mean, this pistol, how it shoots, transition between targets and all that, like it just doesn't sway because of the weight. And in general too, what I really notice is that when reacquiring a grip and I come back into the pistol, it feels so natural and so well transitioning between targets just because of how it feels. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna shoot 3 on the right target, then I'm gonna actually transition and shoot left-handed, two-handed on the left target. So guys, this is a perfect example. Okay, so when we first came out here out of the gate, I shot the, let's say, transition 3 and 3 at 6.9, all right, 6.9 with a miss. Do it 2 more times, and I'm at 4.6. So you go from 6.9 to 4.6, shaved off 2 seconds, and just trying to get a little faster. And really, the point that I'm making here is how important practice is overall. I'm probably, let's say, a little bit on the rustier side. I haven't shot a lot of pistols as of late. I've done more rifle stuff. And it's important, with any pistol. Now, granted, like my carry gun, my CR920 XP, I shoot the shit out of that thing. I shoot it all the time. So I'm also transitioning to a different type of pistol, essentially. But the PDP in general, and also, of course, the steel frame, it feels so well in the hand, just feels natural, and it points so well. I think that's something that kind of gets overlooked. Like, how well does a pistol feel as you're going between targets? And this thing just feels really, really nice. It's very natural to shoot and really, really nice on the recoil cycle. Now, something I want to talk about is, let's talk about this trigger now. When we're going to talk about the trigger, again, like I said, this isn't Overwatch precision. This is the competition one, so it has lighter springs and things like that. But this trigger in general was very easy to replace. I found it just as easy as something like what you would do with a Glock, that easy. So that's why we're going to talk about it. With this trigger though, is it's very crisp, and it's just like a perfect 3.5 pound weight. So we'll just shoot this one-handed here. So we'll flag our thumb, come down the trigger, and you got a little bit of take up. So you got that, you can feel that shoe just a little bit there. You'll notice it's blue on this one. Comes down, it's flat. And that's pressure. I mean, no creep. It's just excellent. It just really feels well. And it's not hard either to be accurate with it either. It really feels, it's hard to beat. What I'll tell you though is I would probably definitely recommend maybe the Walther PDP Pro Series trigger that you can get. I think it's a better trigger overall, like how it breaks and all that stuff, but this one is really darn good as well. Something I want to probably mention as well is that, like, with this pistol, how it recoils is you don't get any muzzle dip with it, and even like the little bit of flip that you get, the dot barely leaves the window. Just really, really nice shooting pistol. Guys, that's the Walther PDP Steel Frame 4.5-inch model. What a phenomenal striker fire gun. I'd be remiss to say that this is not one of the best. It's definitely one of the best striker fire guns on the market. Feels really, really nice. Of course, all of that comes with a cost. If you want, generally speaking, if you're looking at the market nowadays, if you want some of the finer options for a striker fire gun, you'll have to pay for it. And no doubt, this is no exception to that. This one is a phenomenal shooting pistol. I probably couldn't recommend it to enough people if you're on the fence or you want one. If you haven't shot one, I recommend you try it because it shoots really well. We had the opportunity to shoot these at SHOT Show when they were debuted, and shooting it now on the range in our possession is just a truly great shooting experience. And Walther has knocked it out of the park with the steel frame series of pistols, especially the 4.5-inch. If you disagree with me, think there's a better option, you hate me, you think I'm an idiot, whatever it may be, or you just feel like being a decent person, let us know in the comment section, but stay tuned with Hunt, Fish, Shoot.